like Parshat Nitzavim, Erev Shabbos, but it's Erev Rosh Hashanah. It's the last Parsha before Rosh Hashanah. It always is Nitzavim Vayelech. We stand before Hashem, and we Bezrat Hashem will be moving forward in the right direction to the Shana Haba'ah. Just to say something about Shana Haba'ah is that normally people translate Shana Haba'ah as the coming year, but if you listen to the language, Haba'ah means coming to you, coming towards you. Haba, Likrati. And so there's all kinds of potentials that want to be actualized coming towards us. And the tefillah is to show up present, open and present to receive all the blessings for the new year. And may Bezrat Hashem, really for all of Am Yisrael, so we're going on, like really this Shana should be full of blessing, and see a complete turnover from all the sorrow that we suffered this year. It shall be of an afachu, and we should be coming towards Am Yisrael as only blessing and only good. And maybe we show up present to receive all of that. Now, sometimes we show up, we have it, sometimes things come at us from life situations. We live a life, and there's all kinds of situations, matzavim. And in every opportunity, every person that we meet, everything that we meet up in this world, on any level, is part of our story. And if it's part of our story, it means I have to know what to do with it as part of my story. How does it fit to my story? Sometimes we meet up with things and we say, I don't want that to be part of my story. But if it showed up, it's part of your story. And the question is, how is it part of your story? And what are you going to make of it? Sometimes part of the story that shows up is just to give you a bracha, betov, like Benoah. Wow, like you won the raffle, or like you got the bonus, or whatever it is. It's good. Sometimes the things that come at you aren't experienced as completely tov, and I have to wonder. It's bringing up pain in our life. It's bringing up it surfaces all kinds of triggers, and I'm thinking, why is this in my life? I work so hard on avoiding those things that bring me to that place of pain, and yet they keep showing up. Chana Katova, so nice to see you in person. Brucha Ba'ah. Brucha Ba'ah. It's been a while. I've seen you on screen, but Baruch Hashem, welcome. Okay, good. So the question is, like, what do I do with those matzavim? Okay, because when we were talking about Shana Ba'ah, Abal Aleinu L'Tova Bezrat Hashem, it means I have to face certain matzavim to know what to do with them. Is it good for me? Is it not good for me? And how do I handle them that it should be good for me? How much of it is good for me? What's good for me? What's not for me? Now, normally we tend to label the things that bring up the pain in us as zelotov. I need to figure out a way to handle this that it's not going to hurt me. And what Mea Shiloach, today is Mea Shiloach, something new. He's going to, like, he brings up a mind-blowing concept of what it means to show up present for the new year. And what do you do with those things that keep showing up that are just very, very painful? And how do we learn to handle them in a way that's not going to be painful anymore, that's going to be a nekudat mafneh, a turning point that's going to say, that's going to teach me how to, like, view them, not by avoiding them, but by looking at them in a way that's going to be building and going to be and bring out the me that's meant to be in this world. From a place of healing, from a place of tikkun, to all the olamot, all the worlds. And sometimes, like before I go into the text, he says this in the most, like, amazing, very surprising way. Smei Shiloh, how he's going to come about this. But we live our life, and as children, things happen to us, and we go about and we figure out how to survive in this world, and we build all kinds of defenses, and we know what works for us and what not works for us, what's threatening, what's not threatening, and we figure out a way of being, and we develop patterns. We spoke this many, many times, this concept of patterns of thinking and behavior that are there as protection. But there's hidden in all of those layers of protection is a nekuda, is a point of essence, of authenticity, of purity that has to shine through, not from a place of defense, but from a place of who I really am in this world. Now, Rosh Hashanah is the day of creation of man, because the creation of the world was Kaf Hey Elul, and Rosh Hashanah is a creation of man. Now, if we come back to this point every year, it means I can be created anew. Like, it's Rosh Hashanah is a blessed moment that I can come back to the point of my creation before all the balagan, before all the situations that brought me to need to heal from. It's the point where I can be just me standing facing Hashem, just me and Hashem. What would I look like if it's just me facing Hashem? Just to think about that, like, you can blow your mind, right? It's like, it just thinking about that, you can think about all the layers that I need to shed from me to be able to come to just me stand before Hashem, not me in relation to the relationship I have to other people in this world, of what they bring on me, what they, how I handle myself towards them, and do I look good because of how I handle myself vis-a-vis them or not? Usually our gauge, too often, not our fault, it's like it's part of the system, is coming into this world as a baby and growing up with having very small minds to understand what's going on with us. But so often, because it's learned behavior, to gauge ourselves, how we're doing vis-a-vis the world around us, how they react to us, what defines a good girl, a good boy in our mind, because of how mommy and daddy like treated us when we behaved or didn't behave according to their standards, which isn't not always right. It's coming from their own little pekale. But I learn about the world from that, and then eventually I grow up and I learn also what works for me, what doesn't work for me, in terms of what makes me feel good about myself or not, because I learned to gauge myself according to camps of people that I consider lower than me or higher than me. What does that mean? People who are lower than me, I feel good around them because they make me feel good. I'm not like them. They're like the ground that I step on. I'm okay. I at least if I'm not like that, I'm okay. Or you have another group of people that are higher than you, that kind of set the ceiling for what you want to aspire to. But that's also not so good, because it's another person's ceiling that you're measuring yourself up against. So what if you have another different type of a ceiling? Like maybe your ceiling should be higher than that, or completely different than that. So it's Reshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. So we have the Eretz and we have Shamayim. I have to give credit to Rav Yaakov Rashevsky, of course, because I'm quoting him. So a lot of what I'm saying is inspiration, bits of inspiration that I got from him, thrown into how I understand things and coming out. But like, it's like Reshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Reshit bara Elokim. Hashem created the heaven and earth, which means my heaven and earth should be defined, my ground and my shamayim, my eretz and shamayim, this arena that I'm working in, defining who I am as a being for Hashem, has to be that which Hashem created, and not a mentality, not a mental parameters that I create myself because of my life experiences of places of protection. like, oh, this I'm not like that. Thank God I'm not like that. But I'm measuring myself not vis-a-vis Hashem, but I'm vis-a-vis other people. And when I do that, I can live. It works for me at a certain point, but but I'm missing out on discovering who I really can be vis-a-vis myself, mul Hashem. Okay. Now there's a pasuk. I think Mashiach brings it. I'm going to bring it now somewhere here. It's a pasuk from Yeshayahu or Yirmiyahu. I think it's Yeshayahu. Where would I find this pasuk? Where do I write it? It's Yirmiyahu when he speaks about tshuva. He has an amazing pasuk. Yirmiyahu. Im tashuv Israel, elai tashuv. He says Yirmiyahu. Let me see. Let me find you that source. Im tashuv elai Israel. Im tashuv elai Israel. Elai tashuv. So insightful, this pasuk. It's amazing. Yirmiyahu Daled Aleph, Perek Daled pasuk Aleph. Im tashuv Israel num Hashem, elai tashuv. V'im tasir shkutzecha mipanai v'lo tanud. He says, Im tashuv Israel. Once you decide to do tshuva, Im tashuv, when you're ready to do tshuva, when you're ready to get real and examine your life, to do tshuva. Tshuva, of course, is returning to Hashem, returning to who I really am supposed to be vis-a-vis Hashem. Briat Adam, Rosh Hashanah. Hashem says, Elai tashuv. Make sure when you return to me. Elai. Not to some preconceived concept that what did you call it? Mental what? I love it. Thank you so much for coming. Just for that, it's like the mental parameters that I set for myself as I live my life, and I decided to give over my self-definition to others. Vis-a-vis if somebody's going to see me and say, oh, that's a really good person. Oh yeah, really? That makes me a good person because somebody else thinks of me as a good person? And then I'm like, I feel good. Like I walk around with feelings of needing to find approval from outside sources. And that outside source is not Hashem, it's other people. Okay? It's Yirmiyahu, Perek Daled, Pasuk Aleph. So Hashem says, Im tashuv Israel, elai tashuv. Make sure you come back to me. Because where I am, that's where your authentic self is. That's where everything you are supposed to be right. It's a healing of everything that happened to you that maybe worked for you to survive in this world, but at a certain point, you have to come back to who you really are outside of all that. Now you understand how you are vis-a-vis others, but now you have to understand who you are vis-a-vis just yourself, just between you and me. It's amazing. So I'm gonna start reading the Mashiach. So I'm inviting the Mashiach to come to help us in our learning, B'ezrat Hashem, that I should be able to understand his words and give it over in the sweetest, like in the correct way. Lechaven ledvarav, and if there's chidushim, that it should be in sync with what he's saying. And yeah, okay, and real tshuva should come from this, B'ezrat Hashem. So this week is double portion. It's Nitzavim Vayelech, and this perush from Yashiloach is from Vayelech. Vayelech Moshe v'deber et hadvarim haele. Moshe walked. Vayelech, he walked, and he spoke these words. And he says, Meshlo chalicha hu lashon tirda. So nice to have you. How you doing? Okay. She's like a princess. Out of like a fairy book coming walking up. So nice. Okay. So halicha, Meshlo says, hu lashon tirda. מה זה טרדה? מה זה להטריד? מה זה הטרדה? זה הטרדה. No. טרדה means like, להיות מוטרד means to be preoccupied, like disturbed on some level. מוטרד, yeah, it's a disturbance. Okay? הליכה הוא לשון הטרדה. טרדה. Why is הליכה טרדה? From other sources that I learned, we only walk when we feel missing something, and we walk towards fulfilling something that we feel missing in ourselves. When we're when we're sitting, it's because we have everything we need. The movement is usually to fulfill something that's missing. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. I don't know. Whatever it is, and whatever it is that I'm hungry for, I need. Okay. So halicha hu lashon tirda. כי היה קשה בעיניו. איך יוכל האדם לתקן החיסרון המוטבע בשורשו מיום היוולדו? Unbelievable what he's saying here. Okay, let me translate. So it shouldn't just be like with me. Moshe Rabbeinu had something disturbed him. He couldn't rest. He felt very restless with this question that plagued him. Now, when is he saying this, by the way? In this Parsha, we read, he's come to 120 years. It's mamash, the last words he's going to say to Am Yisrael. Mamash. And he's saying, I'm about to die. And I have to figure out still one thing that disturbed me till now that I haven't figured out. But in this Parsha, he figured it out. And 120 years, we read in the Parsha, and this is what he's giving over. Okay? This is what he's giving over. And it has to do, spoiler, it has to do with mitzvat hakel. Hakel is the hakel.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. I forgot to translate. I'm sorry. Hakel. Ki haya kashe be'einav. It was very hard in his eyes, Moshe Rabbeinu. Ech yuchal ha'adam letaken. How a person can rectify, bring rectification to. Another way of saying rectification is healing. Letaken hachisaron, to heal that which is missing, that which is lacking. Hamutba beshorsho, that is at the root of the person's personality being here in this world. Hamutba, that's part of his teva. Miyom hivaldo, from the moment of his birth. Mitzad av ve'em, from the place of where he came from his mother and father. Asher bechet yechamatnu imo. He's saying here that we know our life from the point that we're born. And we think that like what defines us as our interaction with the world from the time we were born, and those are the things that are known to us. The bullies that picked on us in kindergarten and all the successes and distresses that we had along the way, whether we got the promotion, didn't get the promotion, whatever it is, this husband, that husband, whatever it is, no husband, whatever it is. And we think, wow, I see how this is like really affecting me and defining me, and I have to deal with that. But here he's saying there's a chisaron, mutba, beshorsho miyom hivaldo, mitzad avem, that there's something that we come into this world with even before consciousness hit us, that has to do everything with our mother and father when they got together to make us. And this is a generational past thing of a chisaron that we have to deal with. And Moshe Rabbeinu is wondering, how are we ever going to fix that, Ribono Shel Olam? Things that we mess up in the world, I know how to handle. I can see it if I give a little bit of mindful thinking too. But how do we go back and deal with all of that stuff? Whoa. You get the question? It's a very heavy question. Because we didn't just appear out of nowhere. We came from a mother and father. And they are tzinorot of shefa, labriut. Why is kibud av ve'em on the first luchot that everything else that has to do with us and Hashem? Because just as Hashem brought us in the world, then the shefa comes to us, shefa, bounty. Everything that we need to live comes from Elohim. Part of the tzinor of the shefa from Hashem to us is this tzinor pipeline called Ima and Abba, and I can't ignore that. And that's why I have to be mechabed them, because if I'm not mechabed them, I'm closing off the tzinor of the shefa that has to come from Hashem, but it can only come to me from them. They're part of the. So when we do kibud av ve'em, it's not like we're doing them a favor, we're doing ourselves a favor. And whatever baggage we get from them, guess what? It's baggage that we got from them that's part of our tikkun that we need to deal with. Whether we understand it or not, that whether we would have chosen or not. And by the way, the Mekubalim say, we chose our parents exactly for that reason. For this type of tikkun, we took on that file. For what they brought to us when conceiving us. All of their thoughts and attitudes and relationships that they had. And each child chooses which thing that's going to be part of my tikkun. Some is just like, I got it, but it's not really mine, and we can give it back to them. Thank you, this is not my issue. We can give it back to them. And other things are more to do with our essence of, no, this is also part of my tikkun. So feeling love, not feeling love, feeling appreciated, validated, all of those things. Whatever we show up in this world, however we show up, guess what? It's a davar shorshi. And missing that point, not understanding this point, that there's a shoret at the teva, at the shorish of our being that comes from Ima and Abba, we're going to look for fulfillment in those areas outside of ourselves and people that are not mother and father. And it has, at a certain point, it has nothing to do with mother and father anymore. But we got it. And we say, how come it doesn't work? How come the love doesn't come to me? And how come this doesn't work for me? How come that doesn't work for me? Because the answers are not in outside experiences that I've given them power to. Like, oh, if this person would only be like this to me, then I'll be okay. And it's like setting the ceiling of Shamayim, my Shamayim ve'eretz, based on who I look up to or who I look down upon. And if I set the stage to get what I need from people who I set over here or set down here, I'm constantly going to be hurt and disappointed, always, because it has nothing to do with that type of outside interaction. It has to do with me, vis-a-vis myself, understanding that there's an nekuda that that I'm very, very alone in this place.
But they are still creations of Hashem, the Shemayim, the Ark. You still have to interact with them.
Okay, but there's Shemayim Eretz that Hashem created, and then there's Shemayim Eretz that we created, an imitation of it. And what we want to come to is Briat HaOlam of Hashem, Elokim. The Shemayim and the Eretz of Hashem, what He established for Adam, for every person. Well, thank you for that question. Okay. Yuchal Adam letaken chisom eich. So this is hatrada. Moshe was disturbed. How are we ever going to get to that place? Hamutba b'shel shomiyom ivaldo, from the time he was born, mitzad av imo asher bechet yichomatnu imo, ach kasher ne'emar lo parshat hakel. But when Hashem told him parshat hakel, when Hashem revealed to him the mitzvah of hakel to give over to Am Yisrael, shenirmaz lo ki adan yechol letaken, and he says, in this mitzvah, there's a remez of the tikkun for exactly that question. Shenirmaz lo ki adan yechol letaken, gam ken hachet hanolad bo, that a person in this mitzvah takel is ramuz, is hinted at, that how a person can come to be metaken. The chet, we're calling a chet. We're calling those things that need tikkun in our ima and abba that got passed to us, that we were born with, asher yavo la'adam mishorsho, that comes to a person from their shoresh, v'shoresh aviv ve'imo, and the shoresh of his father and mother that conceived him. And when he heard that, Moshe Shilach says, nitmale simcha. Moshe Rabbeinu nitmale simcha. So happy. There's actually a tikkun even for that. Ki ne'emar, im tashuv Israel, there are pursuit from Yirmiyahu, im tashuv Israel, elai tashuv. Make sure that the tshuva should come to me. Ki adam kshe'oseh avera, when a person does an avera, chas v'shalom, az yevosh bedato neged chavero. Af she'en chavero yodea bo ben bo mikol makom enu benaycha mipnei sheyodea shechavero tov mimenu v'ze eino tshuva shlema. What's he saying here? Person, he's going to give us an example. What does it mean lashuv elai, and what does it mean lo lashuv elai? When you do tshuva lo elai. So he says, let's say a person, he does an avera vis-a-vis his friend. Ki adam kshe'oseh avera chas v'shalom, doesn't, and then he's thinking, oh, what if this friend doesn't avera, whatever avera it is? Then he's thinking, this person that I set up to the ceiling, to this person that's up there, if he would know I did this avera, he's so much better than me, then I have busha, not vis-a-vis Hashem, not vis-a-vis who I am meant to be, that I'm chotek keneged atzmi when I'm doing this. But it's like, Moishale, let's say, or Toivale, or whatever, Rochale, if they would know that I did this, I would be, it's like I'm not up to that standard. So I feel embarrassed because of a standard of a shemaim that I made up for myself. Even if the person won't even know that you did this avera, the person won't fear benaicha, because now he's not living upon a standard that he decided for himself, that standard is that person. Follow this? Can you think of examples in your life that how we might be guilty of that, like in certain situations? Let's say I went to school and I learned about the Achnasas Orchim of Avram and Sarah. So that became a standard. Have to be like if my tent is not open on all four sides for mamash, the whole world to come in, I'm a complete failure. Okay. At a certain point, it became my identity to establish myself according to that standard, even when that standard pushed too far, and it's not really me. And it's not really me.
There's a chazal that says, "Matai magiu ma'aseh le'ma'aseh avatay."
But ma'aseh, okay. Thank you so much for that question. Thank you so much for that question. No. She says, but there is a chazal that tells us that we have to aspire to come to the masim of the avot and the imahot. Except, we open up the Amida with Baruch Ata Hashem, Elokai ve'Elokei Avotai, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, ve'Elokei Yaakov. Each one of them had their own relationship to Hashem. We don't hear that Yaakov Avinu's bite was open on all four sides. His bite was his family, and I need to protect my children. It's the point, the Maseh Avotai is the authentic way of serving Hashem according to my authenticity, and not as defined by somebody else. Yitzchak not according to Avram, that's why it's Elokei Avram and Elokei Yitzchak, and Yaakov not according to the standard of Yitzchak and Avram. The point of authenticity, yes, but now I have to figure out what works for me and what really is me. And if me feels claustrophobic when 200 people enter my house because I let the doors open on all sides, I have to know that that mitzvah is not for me to be handled in such a way. There's a time where I open my tent and there's a time where I close my tent. There's a time where I can be with people and how many people. And there's a time where I just need to be secluded with myself. And that's okay. And there's not a stira. I could be like this and I could be like that. And I have to figure out who I am in this picture.
Or that your children are traumatic because your house was open all the time for everybody. And they are like,
What?
my children
Yeah.
are very, because our house was open always and they're watching me about. It's like traumatic.
So
for them.
I have 7 children, Baruch Hashem. So I have gam v'gam. My house in Montreal, Baruch Hashem, was like open. Baruch Hashem. And now I thought all my children enjoyed it, but it turns out not all of them enjoyed it. And they would have liked some like, and the funny thing is the child that apparently was quiet about it and I didn't understand it, later on he said, but he married someone just like me. Never. And me and his wife sit there and say, like, he's like, sometimes he feels like the lachet of he's just a shy person. He's a giving and a sweet soul, but like, can we just be ourselves? And she's like,
The more the merrier.
she's like, like I get extra money. I said, yeah, I can give more tzedakah. She hears more people coming to her. She says, yeah, I can do more achnasas torah. And never for him. What?
When is it when you take a feeling like that and you say, okay, this is for me to push myself, or it's something I need to grow
When
in,
it's
versus this isn't for me.
it takes a lot of self-searching. It takes a lot of living through experiences, situations of life to know what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And at a certain point, it has to work for you. It can't be from guilt. It can't be to aspire to be someone else's ceiling that invented that they're the ceiling for something, a standard. It has to be mak tov. You have to be doing things from a place of simcha. There's such a thing as mitzvot. In last week's Parsha, we learned, but you have to do it besimcha. And if you don't do it besimcha, then you haven't done it. And so, where's my place of simcha? Now, it doesn't mean that we can't stretch. It can't be that doesn't mean that at a certain point I can change my place and say this was good for this kufa, but now I can change, I can stretch, I can be more expansive. It's okay. We can go through evolutions, but every step of the way, ask, why am I doing this? Who am I answering when I do this? Am I answering some invented place from a place of mitgonenut, from a place of defenses, because this is how I'm going to feel good about me being a good person, but it's really from a place of defenses? Or is it, am I really there, fully present of who I really am meant to be? And it takes experience to find that out, trial and error. Okay? Okay. Okay, we said this. So when a person does tshuva, it has to be the tshuva. Is it a tshuva for Hashem, or is it tshuva to me, be able to live with myself? If this person that I set my ceiling up against, how do I measure up to them? And it's a made up thing. That's not a tshuva shlema. Al ken amar hanavi elai teshuv. That's why the Navi Yirmiyahu says elai teshuv. Hainu sheyitbayesh ha'adam mipnei Hashem yitbarach. If we're going to be embarrassed in front of anybody, it has to be before Hashem yitbarach and not anybody else. In other words, it can't be they're going to say that I'm not good and therefore, or there's like WhatsApp groups for like someone's sick, you have to bake cakes. Who's going to bake a cake? Chas v'shalom, I shouldn't be the one to say she didn't bake a cake. Like, What are they going to think? That I'm not a good enough person, not giving enough, not caring enough person if I'm not going to be there baking the cake with so-and-so, for so-and-so, showing up. And we do things to show up in things just so that other people shouldn't think that we're not what we want them to think of ourselves. It's false. It's not authentic. If I'm going to do something, I have to answer to Hashem. Not to do, we have to be careful not to do what Hashem wasn't tziva. And what did Hashem tziva? Dvukim Hashem, im Hashem chayim kulchem. You have to live with vekas with Hashem, but to be that, you have to first know who you are. You have to know your own parameters, vis-a-vis yourself, your wiring. Your wiring, not some invented thing. A societal response to things. Ki Hashem itbarach natan l'Yisrael taryag mitzvot shehem eitzot l'Yisrael. Because Hashem gave us 613 mitzvahs that the Zohar HaKadosh calls eitzot, advice. Why are the mitzvot, according to the Zohar HaKadosh, 18? Taryag 18, taryag eitzot, because they are eitzes to come close to Hashem. איך יוצאים ממחשבתו תאוות הרעות שהם משורשים בליבו. The mitzvot are there, their measurements, when to do what and how much, how long, with who, מה מותר, מה אסור, in order to be the groundwork to help us deal with what we said a few times over and over again, the te'avot harot, our yetzer hara, Shem mushrashim bibo, that are a part of, that are rooted in our belibo, because the Yetzer Hara is in the lev. There's Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Ra. And so certain things that become certain unique traits of things that we desire that come from the Yetzer Hara. And if we're not careful, if we don't do the birurim, we don't do all the clarifications within ourselves, will play themselves out in damaging ways and not ways of tikkun. So we have a Yetzer Hara, we gotta love the Yetzer Hara. We have to take that passion and the fire of the Yetzer Hara and know where to place it in the area of Kedusha. I don't want to kill the Yetzer Hara. I have to know how to live with it. I have to pull the Yetzer Hara into the base medrash. So I have a passion. I love to eat. But how do I do that? B'kedusha. So the mitzvahs come. Basar v'chalav, ma mutar, ma masur, shechting, all kinds of things. You have to wait. There's pauses between things. There's a way to eat b'kedusha. There's a Shulchan Aruch full of halachot. Don't eat while you're walking. Eat like a mensch. Pause between bites. Whatever it is. It's not. Some things are in the Shulchan Aruch, and some things are addition to the Shulchan Aruch, teaching us how to do it b'kedusha. Like there's a book called Minchat Yehuda of Yehuda Strassover. I think it's there, and other places. Where see, you want to bring mindfulness. Ma'achal, food is otiyot malach. Gematria 91. Which is Amen, but it's also Ilan, which is the Eitz HaChaim, which is also the combination of Yud Kei Vav Kei and Aleph Daled Nunim. The combination of Tiferet Malchut, all of these things, Yud Kei Vav Kei and Adnut, the Zivug, the Yuchud. There's a way of approaching food that brings us into a place of Kedusha. So maybe it's not like the Shulchan Aruch has that, but then there's all the Torah behind that backs it up. Okay? So we have Te'avot, and the Torah comes, you have a taiva, you need to, Hashem gave us taste buds for a reason. You have to enjoy the food. But you have to know to do it in Kedusha. So, because why did Hashem give us these 613 mitzvot, which are eitzot? Because we're living in this world, and makom tum'ah, and this place is called makom tum'ah because on the face of it, we don't see Hashem. And we have, and as soon as we bring God consciousness to it, and that's all something that's happening in our brain, in our mind, it's a state of consciousness. But until we bring Hashem to it, it's a place of Tumah, because it seems like, what does this have to do with Hashem? I'll share with you something that came into my head, even though my better judgment's telling me don't share with them, but whatever. I used to teach high school in Montreal, and the girls would gather around my desk, and they would like to pick my brain. I'm this religious person speaking spirituality, and he says, "What do you mean? You think about Hashem like when you're with your husband? Like, it's like, of course. How do you do that? It's like in their mind, that place of intimacy is all about taiva. It's about what the body wants. And I'm saying, no, you got to bring Hashem into the finat, chas v'shalom. It's esh. It's fire against fire without the yud and the hey of ish and the isha. You have to bring the yud and the hey, the ish and the isha together. That's the shechina. Then it becomes like so much more pleasurable also. Because it becomes holy fire, and not just ego, desire, just like animalistic. So here, what is he saying? But hanikam makom tuma. לכן נתן השם יתברך עצות לאדם איך להסיר מאיתו התאוות. So therefore Hashem gave us עצas how to remove from a person those tavot, from the bad place, from the tumah place, to be able to live in a realm of kedusha, do everything that we need to do as a human being, because we're human beings and we have bodies, but there's normal functions that a human being has to be engaged with, but how to do it in areas of kedusha. And that's why Hashem gave us tzitzit. He brings examples of men's mitzvot, but tzitzit and tefillin, that you have to see them, and it's surrounded four corners. I'm like within this chamber of holiness, and you see them. Lo taturu achrei achrei levavchem. So there's certain mitzvot that address a person's midot living in this world of enticements of Yetzer Hara. But then, what disturbed Moshe Rabbeinu? That okay, I can understand. The Torah that you gave us deals with these things. Ach b'midot haraot hanitba'im ba'adam miyom hivaldo. But those sins, those shtiklach, those places of where we're off with Hashem, those places of dissonance from within our own neshama that we came to rectify, that came to us from our mother and father when we were conceived. The mitzvah, which mitzvah addresses that? אך במידות הרעות הנתבעים באדם מיום היוולדו שבא לו משורש אביו ואמו, ועליהם אמר הנביא, ופושע מבטן קורא לך. He brings a pasuk from Ishayahu. What a pasuk from Ishayahu. Did you hear this? ופושע מבטן קורא לך. There's a criminal from the beten that's calling out to you. A criminal. From the time we conceive them, like we're born with a little criminal inside us. I'll read you the whole pasuk. גם לא שמעת, גם לא ידעת, גם מאז לא פתחה אוזנך, כי ידעתי בגוד תבגוד ופשע מבטן קרא לך. You had never heard, you had never known, your ears were not opened of old, though I know that you are treacherous, that you were called a rebel from birth. So there's still a rebel that is we're born with, that has nothing to do with the midos that they teach us in school, or what we were exposed to because we're exposed to bad sights and bad people, and we maybe learned from them. We come at these things that we need to work out within ourselves, those things that don't make us feel comfortable with our own neshama because of something that we're born with. Now, pesha. Now, like I'm not so old, but I'm old. I'm like 61, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about myself, trying to figure out my place in this world, and things that I thought not going to be. She's a very sweet person. If you met her, like, so forgive me what I'm saying. It's just as an example, but we go through matzavim of individuation as teenagers. We don't understand our parents. We blame them. And we say, I'm never going to be like that. And then I realize at a certain point in my life, I am just like her. And what I saw in her as her tikkun is 100% my tikkun. Now, there's certain things that I got from her that I could just clean off and brush off, take myself to the cleaners and whatever. I can take a shower, go to the mikvah, and it's not mine. It's like it's hers. But there's other things that like I'm so connected to her. And it's like, and it's very, 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 very deep. And it's usually the last thing that we look at when we do our own tikkun. It's the last thing that we want to go there because it's a very, very painful place. It's a very, very painful place to realize that who I am essentially from birth is like, I'm not sorry for the language, but I think it fits. It's like I'm born with a defect. I'm born with a defect. And Moshe Rabbeinu says, was disturbed. How am I going to fix those defects? How am I going to go back there? It's beyond me. It's huge. It's primal. It's shoshi. It's from the root. Now, Pesha is this criminal rebel that we're talking about. Pesha in modern Hebrew, they use it as crime. But flip the letters around, it becomes shefa. It's the same letters. Pesha is shefa. If we allow ourselves to stand in front of that pain and stop with the defenses and saying and avoiding the area of hurt, because if only this would happen, if this love would come to me from this place, and I figured out how to outsmart the system, the internal system that says, I know how, if I decide myself that I'm going to be in such a place with such a name, like a reputation, with such a like a job in this world or whatever it is, I can avoid those painful places, but at a certain point, it's going to come back at us. It's going to hit, and we don't understand why it's not working for me. So then, I still have to get to Hakel. What time is it? Shoot, it's 11:25. But Rabbi Shimon says, when you hit upon those places that you feel blocked, that the shefa is blocked from reaching us, that the light and love is not reaching us, then a person has three eitzot, three things that they can do: shinui makom, shinui shem, or shinui maaseh. On the pshat, change your place. Mashana makom, mashana mazal. Shinui shem, just change your name. I don't know. Change your name. Make people call you something else. Shinui maaseh means change what you do in this world. Maybe you need to change jobs, occupations, miktsua. But on a deeper level, it means change your place where you're holding in this world. Stop seeing yourself stuck in this place where you defined as your place of comfort, because this is going to be the place that makes you avoid going into those hurtful places of inner childhood wounds, whatever you however it got there, and change that place. Change how you look at that place. Redefine your place in this world. I am not that child. I'm not that place. Yes, it's my wound. I have to look at it. It's a pesha, but I'm going to turn that pesha by standing with a courageous heart to turn that very pesha into shefa. I'm going to understand this wound of mine that blocks the light, and I'm going to say this is primal for me, and this is my tikkun. I have to deal with this pain. There's no other way. I have to deal with this, but me vis-a-vis Hashem, and not vis-a-vis the other people, where they're bringing comfort to this place of wound or not. Tashuv elai. Change of name is change my reputation. If people know me as this hospitable person and I don't feel like being that it's okay. You're not a bad person if you decide to change. Like, you're a mahalach. Like, up until now was good for me, now it's not good for me. I'm going to change how I'm going to be viewed. And if you don't like it, if you don't like my change of name, I have to answer to Hashem and to me, my authentic self. I'm not going to keep judging myself according to what people think. Oh, so she's not a good person anymore. because of that. It's like it's a great shinui maaseh is to change, is how I heard this explained by Rav Yaakov Reshevsky is to change the maaseh. What's a maaseh? The sipur. To change the story, the narrative. Tell yourself your story that you've been crying about till now. We're avoiding the pain of it. Not love, not that, not worthy. Change it. Tell it in a different way. Tell your story in a different way. Narrative therapy. Reframe. It's beyond reframing. It's just change the story. So let's go back because I really have to finish here because I'm not going to get to Hakel. Al zeh nitna parshat Hakel. For those things, Meshilach says, is to address those primal places of hurt and pain that we came here as a tikkun, to be mataken, that which we got from Abba and Ima, even beyond me even knowing about myself. This is Parshat Hakel. How? What is Hakel? It's a great big gathering. Kehila. Hakel means you once in 7 years after Shemitah, even just that, Shemitah. What is the definition of the Hebrew word Shemitah? Lehashmit means to press delete. Lehashmit, delete. You go to a place in your life and you have to do a stocking of soul. Is that English? Accounting of soul, taking stock for whatever the English is, and you have to gather up all the things that made up who you were till now, and figure out what to lehashmit, delete. B'shinui makom, shinui shem, and shinui maaseh. But how does it fit really to Makel? So once in 7 years, who had to come? So you have to come to the Beis Hamikdash, and the king would read from the Sefer Torah, because the Torah is our guide. Who has to show up there? The mother, everyone, the mother and the father, and they had to bring their children, even those that didn't even understand anything. So the question is, what are you bringing children along the way if they don't understand what they're going to be hearing? Rashi says, the Gemara says, to give schust for the parents that they're bringing their children. Not strong enough. Not strong enough. So listen to what he says. How do we understand bringing the children that have no understanding? בגמרא, למה באו כדי ליתן שכר למביאיהן? It's a Parsha חגיגה, היינו שעל ידי התשוקה שבאביו ואמו, you have to, so the mother, father and the mother have to come and they have to bring their children to this hakel, to this gathering. It's a gathering that I have to come to. What is the father and mother? So it's talking to every person themselves. There's a certain nekuda in your life that you have to show up. You have to do a havakel. You have to do a gathering of taking stock. There's me. There's Hashem that made me. But Hashem had partners in making me, and that's my mother and father. And they made a child, and that's me. And I have to bring all of those gathered to one spot to take stock of my life. What's mine? What's authentically mine? What did I come into this world to fix? What's mine because of how I lived in this world, my oopses and my successes in this world that have nothing to do with my mother and father. It has, but like not social shit. And that which I get from my mother and father, I have to bring those points. That all the desires, all the mentality and attitudes that my parents brought to the point of conceiving me when they got together to conceive me, to bring them into Divrei Torah, to hear all of those, to come to a place where they hear the Torah. I'm bringing all of myself. All of myself means all of my hurts, all of my balagan, all of my confusions, that all of those critical components in the makeup of my life, God, my mother, and my father, and then there's that just mani asiti, lo asiti klum, I just was born to them. Shikansu divrei Torah beoznei hatinok, that the divrei Torah should enter oznei hatinok, enter the ears of the child, Even if he doesn't know a thing, as the mother of Rabbi Yeshua Bar Chanina, when she brought his wagon with him, like to in the base of interest, he should hear Torah. And in this way, in this hakel, in this gathering of, every so often I bring myself to stop and gather up all my components to hear divrei Torah and saying what's really going on here, and to do a seder. And in this way, I can bring healing to the child of what he got from his parents. Even in those midot, even those midot that were planted in him from the time that he was in his mother's belly. And this, he says, that's called shimusha shel Torah. There's limud Torah and there's shimush Torah. Is this Pirkei Avot? Gdola shimusha shel Torah? I don't know, it's somewhere in Chazal. Okay? What's greater, limud Torah? It's a discussion between Rabbi Akiva and other rabbis. What's greater, limud Torah or the Maaseh Torah or shimush Torah? What's better, learning Torah, intellectually learning Torah, or to be meshamesh, to be a shamash, to serve people who do Torah and to actually bring yourself into an experience of living Torah from your experience. And experience always involves your body. And the conclusion is shimusha gdola milimud. That and until that we bring our own whole selves to do Torah with our guf and experience it on our body, we won't know what we're learning intellectually. We won't understand it. And it has to be with our guf, not just our hearts. We have to bring it to our heart. Because we have to bring it to our heart. And then we have to bring it back to the things that we know, check it up against Torah. But it has to be my whole experience. והתשוקה נקראת שימושה של תורה, שהיא גדולה מלימודה, שעל ידי זה יכול לרפות את הקודם, because in that way we can bring refuah to that which preceded as ourselves. So that we're born with things that need a refuah. This is the Tikkun Adorot, generational speaking. Now I know that I can trace certain shtiklach of mine, certain securities, whatever, like the shtick, the triggers, whatever. I see how it took me 61 years. You don't have to wait that long. I didn't come to such a shiur when I was your age. You know, this generation is so much more advanced in the potential of where they can get because there's so much of this Torah going on, and part of the psychology of the time and the healing at the time, the somatic therapies and all of the IFS and everything. It's like it's so advanced. Spiritually speaking, they're so addressed the spirituality of the person, not just like the psychology of the person. That this can I see how certain things, and then when I think about my mother and my grandmother, and I think about my grandmother, I love my grandmother, I was very, very close to my grandmother and got a lot from her, but I see the shtick, like there's a certain nekudah that just passed down, and at a certain point, and when I see it, there's a child there. There's a child that was born to this situation. I say, I'm going to grow up now. This child is going to heal. This child is just going to heal. I'm not going to allow it to define my life. And it's painful, and I'm going to stand before it, and I'm going to be very brave-hearted. And I'm going to ask for siyata d'ishmaya. And in this way, doing this Vayelech, I'm bringing my mother and my father and my own child into this, and I'm bringing the tshuva el Hashem. I can bring healing et hakodem. Et hakodem. That which preceded me even before I even knew about myself. From conception and beyond, and before that, because my parents were conceived also from a place of, and it goes back a very long time. There's something called, lately I've heard this concept called constellation family constellation therapy. You heard about this?
Yeah, I did.
What is it? It's like, am I saying it right? It's like you.
It's excellent.
It
wires
with previous generation that shamot that
come up that you don't even know.
No, from souls that are stuck there, that need a tikkun and waiting for someone down along the generation fix me. fix it so that they can have relief in previous gen. This is Kabbalah also, but it's amazing that modern day therapies are talking about that too. Not from a place of kivyachol, it's in the Torah and spoken about. That means they're getting it also in the air. But it's like amazing. It's like we're not only fixing ourselves, we're fixing ourselves all the way back to Adam and Chava. It's amazing. What a zchut to be able to do that. What a zchut to stand before my pain. The thing that hurts me the most, I feel like it's so painful. And I don't know where the Yeshua come, and I'm grabbing and trying to get my relief. And really, it's within me, and it's my job to fix it. So we can have helpers along the way. But when they become the answer, and it's not the answer, it becomes part of the problem. So let me finish the word. והתשוקה הזאת נקראת שימושה של תורה, ויכול לרפות את הקודם, והיינו למביאיהן, and that's why, ויקל means, והיינו למביאיהן, שגם אבי ואמו יתוקנו גם כן. That's why ויקל, when I come with a person, I have to bring my mother, and my father, and my inner child, and my child in me, all of me, and all of them, the people, all that I bring with me, gets a tikkun.
And your children.
And my children, because if I open up this channel, if I bring a tikkun to this, then I'm making it one less thing for my children to have to, that defect won't have to be something that they have to deal with. ועל זה יתואר רבי יהודה בר חנינא במעלות אשרי יולדתו, לפי שהוא תיקון את הקודם, אשרי יולדתו, there's a chazal that says אשרי יולדתו, happy is, fortunate is the mother that gave birth to him. So he's now Meir Shiloh is doing a whole flip here, that even the ima that came before you, it's like ashrei yoladeto, that she will be happy. The previous generations will finally find their relief and their tikkun. תשוקת אביו ואמו שהיינו להם בשעת זיווג, he's saying it already in the time of conception, וממילא היה נקי אגב אמו, וכאשר ראה, and when Moshe Rabbeinu saw this, when he chapped the mitzvah of hakel, את זאת אז נתמלא בשמחה. Then he became very, very happy. God relief. There's a tikkun for all things. Thank you so much. בעזרת השם נעשה ונצליח. We should approach Rosh Hashanah, all of the components that make us up, show brave-hearted, with the pain, with all the shtikla, and say, Hashem, this year, shinui Shem, shinui makom, shinui maaseh, I want a shana chadasha. Allow me to go through this pesha to receive shefa. I don't want to drag this on any further. I want healing. And for that is deep, deep, deep work. Starts with davening for it and be mindful of it. Shows up with like, I have something that is mine that I need to fix. Mine that I need to fix. Bezrat Hashem Yitbarach. And with that, we'll bring relief to future generations, past and future, and we should have a very good year for all of us. Bezrat Hashem Kol Yeshua. Thank you.